And now just so we're all on the same page, let's go to Wikipedia for a moment. Definition. Social media is content created by anyone, publishing and broadcasting democracy. Do you know, if you are 22 years old today, like my son Mike, you now spend, according to the Pew Center for Research on the Family, 7 hours and 42 minutes per day, 7 hours and 42 minutes per day engaged with your electronic devices. That's where it's at. I want to point out, though, that in our corporations in North America, we are now spending more than 40% of our time on email. So let's look at this 22-year-old. How much time does he spend on email? Out of 7 hours and 42 minutes per day, it's essentially 0. Why is that? Because they found some more efficient ways to connect and communicate. You know what? If it's time critical, they send a text. If it's anything else, let's use a rich media tool like Facebook or Google+. So maybe that is something we should start thinking about. Should we really be using a tool that, by the way, is 70% spam to communicate with each other 40% of our workday? Let's rethink that. Now, this is about sociology and technology. We'll leave the technology behind for a second. Let's talk about the sociology. What this can do is allow us to transform monologue into dialogue. And when I say monologue, this is a big idea, so let's put up on a billboard. I'm thinking our typical product brochure, website, press release, newsletter, email blast, advertisement, right? We've got a lot of ways to monologue. But in a dialogue, we would learn more about each other. Dialogue builds relationships, builds trust. So here, I have a trust-building tool at a scale we've not had before in our corporations. So let me show you an example of dialogue. Dialogue to offer better products and services to your customers. So 100,000 companies now do what I'm about to show you. I'm going to show you 3 examples, 2 of which are business to business. So the first, B2B. There is a company called Salesforce.com. They sell one of these cloud-based services that allow the management team, especially the VP of sales, to keep up with what's going on out there with the Salesforce. So professional salespeople usually do strategic selling, long sales cycles, B2B. They enter data into Salesforce.com, and then the sales VP and the management team can see what's going on out there. That's what the product is at Salesforce.com. Now, I'm not going to talk about the product. I'm going to talk about making the product better. So anybody can show up here. By the way, notice how much value this company is providing on their website to its target audience. It's sharing best practices in professional selling. There's a community section. There's blogs where they're helping them get smarter. And then this thing called the Idea Exchange. The Idea Exchange is about making the products and services better. Sort of like the suggestion box that we used to use, meets focus group, meets brainstorming, meets democracy. Anybody can show up, post an idea, or vote on the ideas of others. So when an idea is posted, it comes with these voting buttons. You like it, click the big button. If you don't, you click the small button or just ignore it. Now, none of us is as smart as all of us, so the crowd gets hold of these things. You can comment to make these ideas better and better. Now consider what's at the top of the list. State and country names should come from pick lists. Think about it. Salespeople are entering data about opportunities, and when they come to the state and country name, it's a free-form data field. Well, let's say you got a team down there in Texas, right? So you got one guy putting in TX, and another guy spelling out Texas, and the third person misspelling it or putting in extra spaces. Why don't you just make it a drop-down click list? It's probably faster for the salespeople to enter the data, but it also creates a certain data consistency for management. Now, 20,610 net positive votes later, as the product manager, I've got a pretty good idea of what my customers value. So why would such an obvious feature not be part of the product already? Well, you know what? We live inside 4 walls. Our customers live out there in the real world, and there's a lot of them. Why not crowdsource those ideas from them? Right? You can even tell through the voting what they value. How cool is that? Let me show you another example. This works in consumer-focused businesses. So let's go to Starbucks for a second. You go into Starbucks, somewhere in the store you will see, typically on there, they've got a cork board in most Starbucks. Got an idea for us? Go to mystarbucksidea.com and tell us. And by the way, one click off their homepage also gets you here. So they're really working hard to get their customers right here. Now, before you get to participate, you have to sign in. But in the sign-in process, they capture your email address, and then they really complete the dialogue by writing back. So I made a suggestion to Starbucks, and some time went by, a few months probably. I wasn't expecting it, so I wasn't waiting for it, but this message shows up. Dave, here's the first 50 ideas we've implemented based on your input. And then it was 100. And they don't send these things out every day, but 200. Now it's 275 of our ideas. This is dated April 5th, so this is a few months old. I don't hear from them every day. But 275 ideas turned into reality. And by the way, in the interest of full disclosure, only 271 came from me. There are a few other people on the planet helping Starbucks. Now, let me show you 2 examples of ideas that came from the minds of their customers. Number 1, have you ever been to Starbucks, you got your venti Americano, went back to your car, put it in the cup holder, and you drive off, unfortunately leaving the hole pointed right at you? Now, if you hit a bump just right, it is unbelievable how much coffee can shoot out of that small hole. Now, the baristas don't have this problem, right, because the stores don't move. Occasionally in California, but it's our cars, right? It's our cars. We observe the problem. One guy says, if you can make something that would snap in and block the splashing, then another guy says, if you can make it longer, it will double as a stir. Everyone starts clicking the promote button, and the next thing you know, that green stick is from the mind of us, their customers. While we're at it, Starbucks, why are you double cupping these things or putting these cardboard sleeves on them? Yes, they're hot, but you know what? It's filling up the landfills that much faster. If you make us a reusable one, we'll all save the planet together. And by the way, your costs go down. That'll cost you all of $3 at Starbucks. Let's save the world together. Brilliant. Here's one last example. We met through Tech/Vistage. It's a network of CEOs, 15 to 16,000 business leaders around the world. And if you go inside, now I want to point out that the ideas part of Vistage Village is completely closed and private, which is to say you can do this in an open way, come one, come all, make suggestions, a semi-closed way like Starbucks where you at least have to create an account, or completely closed. Only Vistage members can access this, which is to say that the competition can't be watching over our shoulder to steal ideas. So you decide level of openness. But the point is you can even get CEOs to show up and participate. Now, when Vistage launched its online community initially, it wasn't all that great. But they didn't sit still. They took 640 suggestions from us business members, and then they came out with what was called Vistage Village 2.0. And now, right there, front and center, is my Vistage group, our next meeting, our next speaker, our next location, who's attending. In other words, it was what I valued, what I needed to know. So instead of having the IT department build something, why not engage the actual users to see what they value? And now we have quick links over here, so very quickly I can, one click, get to the other relevant things to me based on my role within Vistage. So this is to say, this whole idea exchange process works open, closed, B2B, B2C, Starbucks customer to CEO. 100,000 companies now do this to deliver better products and services.